Hey everyone, it is VBS week. And so I've got my VBS clothes on for recreation. So having lots of fun with that. I wanted to stop in and do my recommendation for the week. We didn't get that last week, so trying to get back on those. So this week, I want to give a couple resources. And really, the resources on this are still being written, but a couple resources on how to think about biblical justice, social justice, and some of the resources as Christians begin to respond and think about the modern social justice movement. And we have to think really carefully through these categories. But first, I want to start with Romans 8. If you look at Romans 8, verses 18 through 25, I think we had some helpful categories here. Paul says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. So the world fell in Adam and is subjected to futility. So there's suffering in this world. The creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now." So there's a speaking of the groanings, and whether you're a believer or not, everybody experiences that something has gone wrong in this world. We experience sin and misery, even if we don't have the categories for it. So everybody you interact with is going to be experiencing the groanings of creation. The problem is, as Paul explains going on, is that we need the Spirit working in our hearts. We need the redemption of our bodies, and we need a hope. And Paul says, we hope in this redemption, this adoption as sons, for in this hope we were saved. Now, hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what he sees? And that's a problem where our culture goes wrong. We hope in what we can see and touch and have right now. We put our hope in this moment and what we can see. But Paul says we need to hope for what we do not see. We wait for it with patience. We wait for the return of Christ because in him we have deliverance from sin. In Jesus, we are going to have a restoration of the current groanings is going to give way to the new heavens and the new earth. So foundationally, we need to understand where we are between creation being good, the fall and the groanings and the sin, redemption in Christ. And in Christ, we have reconciliation, our made brothers and sisters, and restoration and unity. And then we look forward to when our current sufferings will end. Until then, we will have no utopia. But we can work as believers to fulfill the greatest commandment of loving God and loving our neighbors. So as we're interacting with people who are feeling that groaning, here's a few resources to get started. You're welcome to ask me for more. Just to understand terminology, Neil Shenvi does the best work right now. Engaging Critical Theory and Social Justice Movement, Dr. Neil Shenvi and Dr. Pat Sawyer. This will give you the history, the terminology, and a few of the starting Christian categories. I'll give you a link to this, or you can find the PDF. If you want the long read, still the best read, Carl Trueman really helps us to know a lot of the foundational pillars right now and the thinking behind a lot of the categories. And then I haven't read this yet, but Dr. Voddie Baucham has written a book that's not definitive, but definitely shows how the Christian needs to at least begin thinking through these issues. So I've not read it, but I've heard very good things from many people I trust So that one's a little more accessible than Carl Trueman. So start with the Neil Shenvi one, then maybe move to Voddie Baucham's. And then if you really want the long read, you can read The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. You're welcome to come talk to me. And we can begin thinking through some of these things. I'll let you know if I come up with any more resources that are more accessible. Carl Trueman is supposed to be condensing down and making the much more accessible, not 400-page version of his book here. So that should help if you don't want to read a 400-page tome that gets very technical. Well, VBS continues. We had a great time at Ridgehaven. I hope to see people bowling and at Bible studies as we continue in our summer. God bless.